So let's talk about that moment when you finally realize that you're not just dealing with a difficult person, but that you're actually dealing with an expert manipulator that has a personality disorder, and that is someone that could be a malignant covert narcissist. So this would come after maybe years or decades of feeling like you were the problem. You felt like you were trying to prove your reality, but could never get through. No one else was seeing it. Even people around you, maybe other family members, weren't seeing your reality. Because remember, in a narcissistic family system, everyone's treated differently. So if you're the one that's the scapegoat, you're the one that's undergoing the most abuse, other people aren't getting that same treatment. And that's the part that people don't realize, that if you're the scapegoat, you think that that person is the same with everyone. So everyone's going to see and understand what you're going through. And they don't, because that's not how the narcissistic family system works. But that only makes it more and more difficult for you to realize what's going on. So many of us, I know with myself, it was years of searching and trying to understand what is going on. And even almost succumbing to that moment of thinking, maybe it is me, especially if you've been dealing with a covert narcissist that has been training you to react, like they're poke until you blow up, then they calm down. And then the more they keep you in that state of mind, the more it changes your personality. And so as the years go on and you're trying to find out what is happening, your focus goes from thinking the abuser is the problem to actually thinking you are the problem. There's nothing that a narcissist loves more. So maybe you identify with this. You've been searching and searching. Maybe you even went to professionals to try to understand it, and they too didn't see it, didn't understand it, maybe made you feel like it was your fault. And so that led to more confusion, more disconnection from trusting self, until finally, the day comes when you get it. Something happens and you get it. In fact, I'd love to hear your story. I'll share quickly my story of how the light bulb went off for me. But I'd love to hear your story down below. Okay, so what happened in my case was I was searching and searching to try to make sense of what was going on in my life. And I wound up, one day I was in Barnes & Noble, and I happened to come across the DSM. And I'm reading all the personality disorders because I'm like, okay, someone's got a problem. If it's not that person, it's me, and I don't care who it is. I just want to figure out what this is, because this is not normal. And so I'm reading and reading, and I'm going to be honest. I read the criteria for NPD and it resonated a little bit, but it didn't hit me until I read a letter that somebody sent in. And it was a letter where a woman was talking about a family member and explaining this happens. And when this happens, I feel this. And when I try this, this is how this is met with. And it was really just her story of dealing with this person. And the last line of that letter was, and my family member was diagnosed with NPD. Now, there I am, right? I'm in Barnes & Noble, and I'm with the DSM. And I swear, like at this point, I was so disconnected from self from so many years and decades of gaslighting, right? I'm there with the book and I'm like, did I write this? Did I send this in? Because literally I could have. It would have met my personal circumstances perfectly as if I had written that and sent that in. So when I read that, that's when I was like, whoa, like there is a name for this. This is not just a difficult person. This is a personality disorder. So that was my light bulb moment, right? So that being said, I want to share with you guys the do's and don'ts of what you do at that moment or after that moment. Okay. And a lot of the don'ts that I'm going to share aren't things that I didn't do, by the way. These are things that I did that I wished I hadn't, because they wound up prolonging my confusion, prolonging the gaslighting, and prolonging my suffering. Okay, so learn from my mistakes. At the same time, I kind of feel like the don'ts, right, what we shouldn't do, are things that are so normal and they're actually healthy that it's hard not to. So if you identify with any of them, try not to beat yourself. Try not to put yourself down as if you're doing something wrong. Like this is crazy, enmeshed trauma, abuse, and manipulation. So really have compassion for yourself with how you're handling it. that being said, let's dive in. Okay, my friends, this is me interrupting me because I want you to know of a valuable resource that is helpful when you're healing from emotional trauma. Transformational healing begins when we start putting the focus on these wounded pieces of us that are inside. Today is July 11th, 2024. From now until the end of this month, I'm offering a year membership in the School of Transformation. So if you think this is a resource that could be helpful for you, make sure you join before the sale ends, the last day of June 2024. So the first thing that you don't want to do is, once you realize there's a name for it, I know with myself, it was almost like, okay, like there's a name for it. This is a real thing. Therefore, there must be a solution and we must be able to fix it. We must be able to work through it if people know about it. It was almost like this hope that now, because I understood what this was, that maybe I could get information that could make the relationship better. Hoping that someone gets better, right? Or the relationship gets better. That's normal and that's healthy and it's understandable. The problem with having that false hope, right? That expectation that things can get better continues to keep the trauma bond alive. And two, it's not realistic considering this particular personality disorder. Because the thing is for a relationship to get better, both parties have to acknowledge that there's something wrong with it. And both parties have to look at self and be willing to change themselves for the betterment of the relationship. And anyone that's high on the malignant NPD scale, the higher up they are, the more perfect they are in their eyes, and the less they are going to be willing to look at themselves. So you can't get help if you don't acknowledge that you need it. And so that can be something that can, again, keep you stuck in a trauma bond. Resist the urge to try to point out what they're doing, right? We tend to start becoming almost like we have a degree in narcology, right? And we know all the terms. And so we're like, oh, there's gaslighting, there's blame shifting, there's projection. And we're trying to prove to them what we're seeing. Like, yeah, it is gaslighting. Yes, it is projection. But we tend to slip into this need to prove it to them. Again, that's an understandable behavior, because if you were in a narcissistic family system, you were never allowed to have your own perception unless they approved of it. You were never allowed to feel anything or believe anything unless they gave you permission. And so we fall into the habit of feeling like we need that person to see it in order for us to trust ourselves. And that can, again, keep you stuck, because narcissists love the drama battle. They love, if you accuse them, they don't care. They will just, like a basketball, like spin you in so many directions with their word salad, that by the end of the conversation, you'll start doubting your reality again. So the person you want to start proving anything to is yourself. And remember, you don't need them to believe you. You don't need them to agree with you in order for you to trust yourself. And the last thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to think that taking them to therapy is going to be helpful. I've worked with a lot of people that wound up doing this, or that came to me after that they had done that. And the stories are all so similar. Either the narcissist turned the therapist against the target, so that now you only felt more isolated, more confused, less validated, and more like you're going crazy, right? Like you're an island and everyone else is like not seeing this abuse but you. So that has happened. Or the toxic person. I will say, as my coaching continues, I'm seeing more and more therapists really starting to see through the narcissist behavior. So shout out to all you YouTube channels and all the information that people are putting up, because it is definitely causing a shift in things. However, what I see happening is that some narcissists are going to get informed. They're becoming informed narcissists. They're learning about these tactics, not to stop them, but to become better at them. When a healthy person goes to therapy, they go to therapy with the thought or mindset, I need help. Narcissists go to therapy with the mindset, how can I stop getting caught? How am I getting caught? How are they seeing that I'm the problem? Once they can identify it, all they do is they hide the abuse more. So be careful with that.